don't make us who we are. So I'll dream until I make it real, and all I see is...
Hello, everybody. It's Michelle and Maren here again for another exciting conversation on Mentorship Monday, which we love, and we love that you're here and listening. Thank you for all your support and love that we receive every day. How you doing, Maren?
Yes, thank you so much. Good. How are you, Michelle?
I'm doing awesome. I'm definitely ready for summer. I'm ready for the warmer weather. I'm not so excited about the warmer weather, but this year I am. This year it's not even been a bad winter, although we've had a few ice storms and stuff, but I'm just ready to be outside more.
Well, yeah, and I don't know where you guys are, but we got like a tease. We got like one week of the most beautiful weather on the planet, and then it went like straight. It was that Saturday. I got burnt on my shoulder from going to my kids' sports games. Like I literally had to get aloe and put it on at night and like baby my shoulder. To that Monday, it was snowing and raining. It was like a snow rain mix. And I was like, how did this happen? So yeah, I'm just ready for sunshine and warmth.
Yeah, it was weird. My husband, he's got a couple different styled motorbikes, and the one that he has is a cruiser, and he's not used to riding with his arms exposed. Well, he rode bare armed on Saturday because it was so nice, and he got sunburnt really bad. Like really, really bad. And it was the same.
Yeah, it snuck up on you.
It really did. And then Sunday was a little cooler, but Monday, same thing. Just like crazy snow, rain. And today is not much different. It's been raining here for several days and that. So anyway, but what I wanted to talk about was we haven't really gone through a lot of questions lately from anyone, and I was just taking a little glance at some of the messages, and Julian, and hi Julian, love you. Julian puts the best comments on there.
I know, we love them. Thank you so much.
Yes. Julian puts a lot of time and effort and a lot of love, and Julian knows that we feel the love from that deep, passionate, wonderful place in your heart. We always feel it. But you asked something that we want to talk about, and this can be kind of a complex conversation. We thought we'd kind of dedicate one conversation to it because it does bring up many different other questions. So what Julian asked us was, I'd like to talk about walk-ins. Julian says, a walk-in usually comes around during a traumatic experience. So Julian asks, now, are walk-ins part of the higher self? When a walk-in happens, it changes the person. A walk-in will not be the same, correct? So in the case of a walk-in, what do you lose within, and is it temporary? So those are all really good questions, and maybe what we should do is describe what a walk-in is in the first place, if you've not heard that term before. Maren, do you know? Like, do you understand the concept of walk-in?
So from my understanding, and I could be wrong because you are the expert, my understanding is that someone passes, or so say I pass, my spirit leaves my body, and then another spirit can come in and take over my body and finish living out Maren's life, but it's, Sally's spirit. Is that correct?
Yep. So
okay.
That's the basics of it is, and this answer that I'm giving is based on my experience. So it's based on what has been taught to me from spirit's experience, through different sessions, through meditation. And so I'm definitely not the expert on like the truth to everything, because as far as I'm concerned, our belief system creates all kinds of, that's our experiences, right? But there is a collective understanding with walk-ins, and a lot of the spirits do tell me many of the same types of things when it comes to them. So why does a walk-in happen? Why would we as as spirits, why would we as human beings, spirit in a human body, want that experience? Why would that happen? Well, what they have shared with me, and this is one of the big reasons, is that sometimes a soul will, not all times, but, and I'm sure as I say this, many of you can understand this, take on a lifetime that is very challenging, that is very heavy, and possibly has so much in it that it was maybe more than what that soul could handle, was maybe heavier than what that soul could handle. And we're not necessarily looking at it from the human judgment of that, but let's look at a specific situation that actually did happen with a soul that explained their walk-in to me, which was this particular spirit, the human being that was alive was having a very hard time in life. And there was a lot of tragedy, a lot of difficulty, and that particular soul was going to take their life. Because of the contract of that soul and what they were there to do, if that soul had taken their life, the changes that would have occurred in all the lives around would have taken things off course, would have really changed an outcome, or certain things may not have happened had that soul have left with physical body. So in that case, that soul, and it's always on a higher self level, the human being has nothing to do with it. It's all on the higher self level, the higher soul level. Now, what they've told me is there's always an agreement in place with the soul, with the higher self, that says, if this happens, if my human self gets to this point, then, I'll check out. Or the way Eric shows it to me is like, I'll tap out. I'll do a high five. It's like he shows it to me like a tag team, a ring, doing tag teams. I'll tap out.
That's exactly what I just saw too. Yeah.
And my partner will jump in and take over for me. So now when that happens, often the soul, so us as spirits, so when we're sleeping, when we're communicating on the spirit realm, with a lot of our guides or whomever has helped us do our life planning, this is something that's arranged, that they know they're doing. And for the purpose of maintaining that life, because from a spirit perspective, they're looking at it as a placeholder. That life is like a placeholder for all of these other lives. So it's very important to keep that body intact. It's very important to keep that life intact. Now, this is also, so when there's an exit, these are all different exit points. A walk-in is an exit point. A near-death experience is an exit point. Sometimes walk-ins happen in a near-death experience. However, the person that comes back, or the soul that comes back, is bringing back that memory of what happened, or that conversation, but they themselves are not the exact same soul, but they do come from the same soul group. So even though we're all in this, we'll say if source was this giant bubble and like a planet, they show it to me like a big cell, and with all these tiny little cells inside. So if source is that big cell, yes, we're all part of that cell, we're all connected in there, but then we break the cells down smaller and smaller into smaller pieces. So when there's walk-ins happening, they're within that same cell circuit, within that same grouping. So there's going to be
like your soul family.
Exactly. Soul family.
Okay.
So higher self, yes, but it doesn't have to be. It can be under the soul umbrella or the oversoul, but it is within that same quadrant. So you're in the same territory as that fractal where it came from. So that exchange can happen under these type of circumstances. But you will never have a walk-in experience unless it wasn't prearranged. So sometimes it is a yes, when you get to this age, when you get to this point, when this event takes place, we're going to switch. And sometimes it's to do with an experience, it's to do with that soul might have a different type of experience, like not personalities, so to speak, but like their lessons, their evolution within themselves is going to help that being overcome something. It's going to help them get to the next level. And it really, from my experience, has a lot to do with the people around them. So not only the soul, but just like there's some souls that come in and have a life that it's not that they're not here to learn as well, but their being here might be to guide another individual that's going to have a very big impact on the earth. Because from a soul perspective, and the truth is, we are all equal. It does not matter what part we play, it's just as important as the next. But we work together. We work as puzzle pieces. We work as table legs. We all have to be present to make everything work, to have that support system. But does the walk-in have the same personalities, the same memories? Well, the way that it has been explained to me is that there can be some things that are maintained within the personality, but sometimes there's a slight change in food. Sometimes there's a slight change in activities, things that they like to do. So there can be little things there. But what's happening is that walk-in is taking all the core memory of the human being, of the brain. And so they're still picking up on things like a memory. Many walk-ins have no idea that they're a walk-in. Of course, there are some that know that they are, and they know that they are because of their own exploration. Yes, a traumatic event is a way that a walk-in will come into place, such as going unconscious, having a serious disease, the near-death experience, that sort of thing. There has been more than one soul that has told me that there is a walk-in experience where they do a transition of one soul to the next, so that it doesn't have to be one abrupt moment. It's almost like a soul exchange. So they showed it to me like pumping air. So pumping is like a withdrawal and a pumping at the same time that's taking place. And so there could be some changes happening in that human at that time, but there's really no hard and fast rules to how it is. Does having a walk-in take away from the experience? No, because usually the walk-in experience is there for growth. And so things will expand, things will improve. What's the other thing? I think Julian said something else that was good there. Well,
I have go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
I have a question. So, the first walk-in you talked about was somebody who wanted to commit suicide, but then they realized that it would have all these negative ripple effects for the people in their life. So then they chose a walk-in. So why don't more people choose walk-ins, or why would someone choose to go through with a suicide versus doing a walk-in?
Because let's say that, so we'll say this particular soul, this soul's did not have in their contract taking their own life. Let's say that this soul was to overcome certain circumstances to affect, and this soul's contract had to do with these other people. I mean, we all do, but see if I'm explaining this right. So for this particular soul, their higher self, there would be an agreement there to say, if I got to this point, and Eric just says there's lots of souls that do already have the agreement to have assistance to help them overcome that, but we still have free will. So let's say the soul's plan was to bring in the walk-in, like, yes, if I get to this point, high five. I get to this point, help me. But how we exit the earth and the experience of grief and loss is not a judgment. So taking away that free will choice just because a human being is getting to that point, well, it's like, what is best for this situation? This is very hard for us as human beings to really understand, because having a loved one take their own life is not something like we want to prevent that at all costs, of course. And that is the main goal here, but not all soul or not all lives, not all soul plans are created equal. They're equally as important, but they have different experiences to them. So if that particular soul, if leaving that body, so if that body dies, that may then be a domino effect, say for 3 other people, that they will not do something that really needs to be done. And
correct, yeah.
And so this is important for us as we hear this, to not put judgment towards what that is, because it's hard to say, well, what about my loved one, and what about what's happened in my family, or what about the people's lives that changed? Well, we can't really compare one to the next, because we don't know all the inner workings of why something has happened. So we're really speaking about something that is really on a soul level. We're not putting our human condition to it.
I kind of see that.
Yeah.
I kind of see, like, I just had this theory that, like, when you're sleeping and you're dreaming, you can kind of make changes to your plans, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And so if someone were to say, I'm ready to tag out, they say, okay, well, if you die, you know, then this is the outline. And if you live, then, or if you swap so that you continue to look like you're living, this is the outcome. These are the lessons learned in each thing. This is, you know, and there's like a big way, like we talk about Josh's mom all the time. And he's always like, he always used to say, I don't think she chose this. I don't think she chose to leave us. She would never leave us.
Yeah.
And I like always say, like, well, think about it though. Like, think about what happened, how much growth you had as a human after she left you, like how much we both have changed. Our whole lives have changed for the better. Like, I mean, she had to have known that, like, things can stay the same if you live and you overcome this, or, you know, you can die and then there's going to be this catalyst of growth. So
and that's exactly right. Because on a human level, Josh's mom would have never wanted to leave any of you. On a human level, that was not her, you know, leaving her family was not of her interest. On a soul level, understanding that I love you so much that I know that your growth is the best thing for you.
Yeah.
And truly on a soul level, that's what it is. And remember too, that from the spirit perspective, what we experience in alternate reality, what we experience in the spirit world is just as real as what we're experiencing here. And that's what they say over and over again. They say, what I'm experiencing here is real. And many souls have crossed over that weren't 100% sure there was something, will say, wow, like I didn't expect it to be like this, or I didn't realize that it would be like this. And we have to remember that the soul is looking at this, like what I was using the example of the place card holder. The soul sees this as no big deal, at all. They don't see it as permanent or as it's another step to grow, because the real is over here. This is physical experience. And this is how we get all these contrasts. This is how we do the fastest amount of growth, is by doing it here on earth, because the experiences have so much contrast to them. It gives us that momentum to push off of. And that's why all that up and down is so important, because outside of our physical reality, we don't have that. We can still grow. We do it in different ways. We still grow. The other thing too, Julian was asking is, do they come back? Like, will a soul exchange again? And I've never come across that. I've never, so I'm not going to
tag team back in.
Yeah, like I'm not going to say that can't happen, but I haven't had a spirit say that to me. I can ask Eric what he says about it though. Well, he says that is understanding, like if we're saying that, we're understanding or seeing that it's got limitation. So we're then individualizing a soul as being like this one thing. So he says it can happen, yes. It does have the possibility of happening. But he says there's usually not purpose to that. But he also says that there are souls, okay, there are souls that are here that have had multiple souls go through them. And he's saying that what we're talking about is actually much more common than what we realize.
Now, question, do you have, I think this goes back to Jillian's question, but now I'm just processing more.
Yeah.
Then do you have to have kind of like a near death or something like that to like, you know, kind of come in and come out, or can it just be in a person's sleep, or like what kind of event do you have to get a new soul come in?
It can be. He says all of the above. It doesn't have to be an accident or a major catastrophe. There's often some sort of a shift though. So a person could have they could have like a how you explain it, like a drop in their energy. So either they are sick, migraine. He's showing there being some sort of a reason to shut down. Yes, it can happen over sleep, but when it happens unassuming, so when it can happen over time. So it's like an integration.
Oh, that's right.
It's a shift. So it doesn't have to happen all at once. He says it depends on the path of the soul. It depends on what's like sometimes we need something like lightning to be able to change the experience, or for the people around us. He says sometimes it doesn't need to be that way. He says there's nothing sneaky about it. He's laughing and he's like, there's nothing sneaky about it. It just kind of is. It's just another way for us as souls to be able to maneuver through the physical world. It's also, he says, and he goes, and hear this one, hear this. He goes, we're talking about limiting beliefs earlier. So he says, how many people will this rub your limiting belief and make you say, how could that be? Could that be possible? But he says, that's what we are doing right now, is we're cracking limiting beliefs to show that there might be a design that has been learned a certain way over decades, and that when we collectively go with that design, that's what is believed. But does that mean that that is the only way? Does that mean that that is the only circumstance? No, because as our consciousness grows, he says we become more aware and we realize that there are many different avenues for us as souls to accomplish something. And he says that we will talk more about that. Like as we go forward, we're going to bring up all kinds of things that are going to be maybe new concepts to some people, maybe not to everybody, but to some. But he likes talking about things that push boundaries. I'm sure you.
I love that, Eric. Yeah.
He likes to push those boundaries.
Well, I need it. What did you say? And I was like, I just thought, oh, my self-limiting beliefs. When you were like, I've talked to many spirits, and then they said they can transition. I'd be like, if I was channeling that, and then a spirit said that they slowly transitioned from one, I would be like, I've heard this wrong. I just need to like change the subject. So that's my self-limiting beliefs.
Well,
I hear when you say
yes,
it, I hear it and I accept it.
Yeah.
But if I were hearing that on my own, it'd be very much questioned.
Well, there's a lot of I've channeled worked with a woman. I still work with her, and she's channeling a trilogy, or she's doing like it's a memoir, and she's got this amazing story about this walk-in, and she just asks a lot of different questions and stuff, and a lot of things have come forward in her book, and some of them very challenging for my own beliefs. And I mean, I would even say to her as I'm channeling, I'd be like, well, this is what's coming out, like this is what it is, but it will always validate itself somewhere else. I've been working
Oh,
with
you're
her.
channeling it for the lady. So the lady's writing the book and she's coming to you to get the channeled information.
Yes.
Okay.
So we've been working together for a few years now, gosh, for maybe 5 years now. And we're on to book number 3 right now. And I mean, the stuff that comes through is really deep. And
wow.
It's so interesting because a concept will come through, or information will come through from this one soul, and then I'll have a different reading a week later, and it'll come through from another soul in another way, or I'll hear it from somebody else. I'll hear that being validated. So, just over time, you get to learn that when things do challenge your beliefs, because that's the beauty about channeling, is that you learn to set your beliefs aside and continue to repeat. I'll tell you something funny that did happen to me last weekend. And I laughed because I discounted something a spirit said to me, because I didn't like what they were saying. So I just discounted it and told them to find something else. And it was so funny because it's a woman that I meet with regularly, and her son passed away. And her son is so interesting. And he just comes in he's got so much wisdom and information, and he's, talking about all of these different things, and talks about the spirit world and some of the work that he's doing. And so he always leaves a message for his family. So we'll go through the whole family. And sometimes the messages are like, I love you, I'm proud of you, and sometimes they're very direct, like, you need to stop doing this, or start doing this, or this is what I'm doing with you right now, or look for this. Like, it just depends on the session. Well, this last week, he was giving a message to his father, and he always says how much he loves his dad, how proud he is of his dad, all of that kind of stuff. And so I asked him, I said, can you show me something that's different than that? Because I knew the dad wanted to hear something substantial, but I also know very well how spirit works when it comes to doubting and disbelief, and how they will not and cannot play the game of, I'm going to give you all these examples, because they know that that's not really how it works. It has to be all in timing, and that the benefit of that catalyst of learning for that soul, the one that's the father, is more important than giving what the mind needs. The mind thinks they need, right? So I know that, but I just said, come on. I said, can we give a little something more than I love you and I'm proud? I'm like, those things are great. And I'm saying it out loud in front of his mom. She's kind of laughing. And then he shows me these slippers, and he shows me like, which looks like his dad's feet, like kicking the slippers off. And I'm like thinking in my head, not like slippers, like, come on, how about something, And so I just gave her the messages I was getting, and I said, I don't know. I said, I don't know. I said, he must just not really have anything to say. I don't know. All he keeps showing me is these old slippers and these new slippers. And she's like, what did you just say? What did you just say? I'm like, well, he just shows me these slippers, so I think he's teasing me. And she goes, Michelle, she goes, I just got him his brand new slippers this morning, right before our session, and unwrapped them out of the package.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so I laughed, and I'm like, okay, haha, Michelle. Like, guess I could have not argued with the spirit, but he was trying to show me, and I was discounting because I was deciding in that moment that it wasn't good enough. Right? So I learned a nice little lesson in there, and a reminder for me to not judge what they're saying, because no matter how insignificant it might seem, or no matter how outlandish it might seem, it's coming through in the moment that you are connecting. And it is not up to us to judge it or to decide where it needs to go or to try and figure it out for that person. Because could I have seen the slippers and said, I think it's a metaphor for get your feet moving?
Yeah.
Right? So that wasn't coming with it. Right? It was an image. It was an image without information. So, it was the end of the reading and I was looking for something more substantial. So I was like going through the Rolodex with him, going, no, 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 no. And he was showing me that's not your choice. That's not your choice, Michelle. And that reminder is for all of us. It doesn't matter how long you've been doing this or how good you think you are or whatever. It's a reminder that we're human and we're going to put our judgment or our thought in there, because sometimes we're going to hear or see things that just don't make sense or that we don't want.
Yeah.
So it's that reminder that no, it's there for a reason. Say it, don't judge it, let it go. Put it out there. And for that, I'm very grateful, because that reminds me, and just in talking about the walk-ins and everything, a lot of the information that I get, it's like, I can't even believe I'm saying this. I can't even believe I'm repeating some of this stuff, because there'd be a time where I would just think that is ridiculous. That is crackers. There's no way that could be true. But the more our consciousness expands, the more that we see that the things that don't make sense actually do make sense.
Yeah.
But there's lots of things that we don't really know about, and that's the other thing too. I mean, every new concept is going to take time to kind of process it and understand it, and to also understand that when we're talking about spirits, we're not talking about linear. We're not talking about something that's happening in the way that our human mind processes. We're talking about concepts that happen at the same time, and often we're putting the whether it's the visual or the words that we're hearing, we're putting together that picture of how it's going to best make sense to the brain, to the human mind. So we could be putting, like, a lot of these concepts, like there's not always, for me anyways, not always words, because I'm very empathic and I get a lot of visual. So it's often feeling and images that I'm getting. I just did a channeling with Elisa and Eric on what was it, biotechnology or something, on cells, and really fascinating subject. And it was about all of our cells having consciousness and about where healing is going and everything. And that entire channeling was like playing Pictionary.
Oh my gosh.
There was a lot of, because I didn't have the language.
That's what I was going to say. You probably didn't have the words to describe what.
Right. So
Yeah.
that's also to show, like, just in explaining this, like, sometimes I'm not going to have the words because it's not in my vocabulary. I don't have the education for it. I don't have that understanding, but they can show me images with pictures. And so Eric was giving me, it was like playing Pictionary. And so he was giving me concepts and images that I could understand, that I could kind of tease out. And Elisa would ask questions in such a way and kind of reposition it so that I could make sense out of what I was seeing. And then Eric would kind of give like an idea or a download to it. So it doesn't always happen. Like, in Eric, I communicate with all the time, but depending on what that conversation or what we're channeling with, it's not always going to be the same kind of communication. Because for me, that was not it's a high vibrational subject because I'm interested, but my energy was, I'll say, tilted because I was using one way and not the other way. So I had to kind of, and that's the beauty about channeling, because it's not always exactly the same. Not all souls are the same, not all subjects are the same. We're going to have our own ideas. We're going to have our own, if we're talking about a subject matter that we know nothing about, then there's going to be that automatic piece of like, I don't know what any of those words are, what that means. but we can still do it. Still there.
So interesting that you're talking and that our conversation kind of took this turn, because when we get off, or when we were going to get off air, I was going to talk to you about my first channeling while writing experience.
Oh,
cool. And I feel like you're just already answering all the questions I was going to ask you. Yeah. So there's like no need.
That's awesome. Well, yeah. So hopefully, Julian, that gives you some explanation to walk-ins. I mean, it's really something that we could talk a lot about, and we could also pull in a walk-in and ask questions one time, you know. But if you guys have more suggestions for subjects or things you want to talk about, let us know. Put it in the comments, and Maren and I will talk about it. I already told Maren this, but one of the I'll say gals, young ladies that does mentorship with me, she did an Akashic record reading with me yesterday, which was really awesome. Really validating, beautiful information came out for her to kind of explain why she's on the spiritual path. And she had a couple questions. So she would like to share that with everybody. And she would like to share her story and all of that. So she asked Maren and I if we would share it. So we will do a recording on that coming up. So if you guys have questions, but any topics that you want us to cover, feel free, write it down here in the you know what below. And also we're going to have some stuff coming up. Maren's got an awesome podcast, which you can check out on her Instagram right now. She's got a couple podcasts.
Well, I don't have a podcast. I was interviewed.
Yes, she was
by a podcast.
Yes, but it's really good. I just listened to it, and she's already put one up that you can see in our videos here. But she's going to post that one up coming up in the next little while as well. So anyway, anything else you want to share, Maren, before we go? That's
it. Thank you so much for taking the time to explain that to us, Michelle. That was a really big concept, and I feel like I have a much better understanding now.
Perfect. No, I'm glad.
Yeah.
You've also had somebody crossing back and forth behind your chair the whole
time.
Oh
my gosh. Well, I see stuff over here. So
yeah. Like you've got lots of movement around there. Maybe it's an octopus. So.
I hope it's my octopus teacher and not a walk-in.
Maybe both. Maybe your octopus is letting you know that they're going to be a walk-in and that you're going to recognize them with.
Maybe.
All right, guys, we'll go out and create your futures. Enjoy yourselves. Have a wonderful week, and we will see you back here the same time on the same channel. Bye, everybody.
Thank you. Bye.